We are back with Visit. We are playing the Multicolour Playoff, or the Sisters, as I call them. And for the purpose of this deck, we're trying it out because we have the new card Insidious Roots and Chalk Outline, which lets us basically, when creatures leave our graveyard, we get triggers. And this deck loves throwing the Sisters into the graveyard and bringing them back. We're up against a Soul of Windgrace, Nicol Bolas, and a Grist the Hunger Tide. And I will tell you right now, the Oogie 35 is the host of this game, with the this is casual, no infinite combos, no land destruction, no Eldrazi, no thing, and I think he breaks all of his rules by the end of this game. Nicol Bolas is off to the Basilisk Collar. We have a Cryptolith right from Grist. This looks to be pure Insect Tribal looking at that. We kept a hand with no green, so we are living on a prayer here, but I really want to resolve Insidious Roots. Yes, I splashed for this. Well, I didn't splash, it was actually cheaper, or around the same price. But I really do think this artwork is pretty solid. Oh yeah, and our opponent plays a casual Necropotence. But I will give it to them. They did not go completely into combo Necropotence. They didn't draw 30 cards. And we're struggling here, so we'll throw down into Harley's Ploy. Again, no green, and our deck is taunting us by giving us all of the green mana, so we'll just drop this Terminate. Our opponent drops the Lord Windgrace. Lord Windgrace is insanely strong. I actually think I've played this Uni guy multiple times. His deck is pretty good and pretty strong, it's funny to me that he always requests a low power game and puts in a bunch of rules that he himself breaks, which is always funny. It's like when the combo deck puts no Fortsies in modern casual games. They're like, I don't want you to Fortsies my combo. And the Grist here is going pure Insect Tribal. They have Cryptolith Strides, they have Grist fully upgraded, they are tapping out, making more insect tokens. This is insane. All of our opponents have their stuff out, so I actually choose here, instead of ramping, I'm going to send them back a bit with a Solar Blaze. Windgrace has an ability to protect itself with indestructibility, Nicol Bolas has a flip ability, Grist has tons of mana dorks now, so this was a good trade in terms of value. We get a Yavimai's Cradle. That would have been my lifesaver earlier if he played it a turn before. Soul of Windgrace pulls back lands. Soul of Windgrace is Baby Golos, I like to call it. It returns a land from a graveyard, any graveyard, but it will always help you pay your next command attacks. Our opponent goes with the Demonic Tutor, and I incorrectly, I think, in this game threat assessed that the Nicol Bolas player was the problem. Opponent throws down a Lantern and draws with their Necropotence, always staying on at 7. Our opponent with Grist upticks Grist again, zooms up to 10, hitting 3 insects in a row. Then taps down to play a Hornet's Nest, so they are all in making insects. We get pinged for our Solar Blaze, which is fair. I'm going to cultivate here. Get 2 land. Since we have the Cradle of Growth, we're going to use the free visits. Grab another land. See what our opponent goes for. They Gaze of Granite and completely hit for 3 or less. So I'm super happy I didn't throw down Insidious Roots yet. They grow down with Field of the Dead. Another reason why they don't want any land destruction at all in this game. We get hit for 5, which is fair. Nicol Bolas player redeploys their Nicol Bolas. Lotleth Troll is fantastic if we have any of the Sisters in hand. We currently don't, so I'm going to chuck him away here. We have a Bane of the Living. And then Taku Elder. Did not know that was a card. We get another land here, so I'm going to drop a land and throw down a Niv for a reload, see what we can find. We get a really solid hand here, so Quintorius is a good payoff. So what I do here, after checking my maths, I'm going to struggle, kill something on the opponent's board, cast Quintorius, cast Insidious Roots, and then use Survive to empty our graveyard. Our opponent drops a new Shieldred to make us sack all of our boards again. Not a huge thing here. I would have liked to have Insidious Roots down. See what our opponent does. They swing at us for 6 and throw on the Nicobolus player, dropping more lands, making more zombies. Do you guys think Field of the Dead should be banned? I don't think it needs to be banned. I just think we need to be more comfortable with playing selective land destruction. I would totally play a spell that blew up a land if it was multicolored. They go for a Shieldred flip, so I, in response, struggle to kill it off. Goes to our opponent's turn. They Damnation, which is fantastic for us. And then they tap out, showing the way is clear. So we got nothing to worry about. Plus, we will be shuffling that Shieldred away. I get an informed decision that something's wrong with the Pauper tournament that I'm not involved in, and I didn't register for. Our opponent plays a Bone Harvest, which makes me feel pretty bad for them. They put a bunch of insects on top of their deck, and we're about to shuffle their deck, so I'm sure they were trying to set up for a big grist or something. We draw Chalk Outline, which is huge, so first we'll throw down Insidious Roots, throw down Quintorius. Now we'll struggle, which will shuffle away all of our cards. Each individual card will trigger Quintorius. We did have a creature in the graveyard, so it'll also trigger the Insidious Roots, which is also a Cryptolith, right? Because, well, what else do we want it to do? I mean, it should give all tokens haste. That'll be the next version they'll print. Our Lord Wingwraith player starts throwing down more lands, making more zombies. Crack Font of Eternity. They play a Bane of Avatar, which I've never seen before, and turns out draws them a card every upkeep for a cost of a life, which seems to be really good. So our opponent here taps out to replay their Nicobolus. We're going to throw away our Volha. They draw a card on our insect player's turn. I'll give huge props to this insect player. They literally stayed in this game till the absolute end. Right, on our turn, we draw a card. Lag Spike throws us into combat, which really annoys me, so I'll swing in with all the spirit tokens before block, so I will disintegrate the Baneful Force. They'll trade all their tokens for ours, which is fine with me. I'll then shock in a land. I'm going to replay Niv Mizzet here. We want more reload options. I don't want to commit to anything to the board yet. I'm going to take a Vindicate to destroy any troublesome permanent, and a Treasured Find to buy stuff back and trigger our cards. We did hit one of our Eidolons in the flip, which was unfortunate. Opponent plays a Combustible Gearhulk. I say no to it. They flip a Kozilek, which shuffles their graveyard away. Puts me down to 16, which annoys me because he was like, no Annihilator, and apparently he's running Annihilator. I believe in the chat he called out that this was his mill defense and he would never actually cast it. BS, if you ask me. Opponent plays the God Machine's effigy, copying the Gearhulk. I can't risk taking it here. This bonus player, I don't know what big stuff he's playing, so I just let him draw free. They play a Mana Crypt. Bolus to Citadel. Crux of Fate destroy everything, but we still have Niv Mizzet, because clearly not expecting that. They pass back. I don't talk much about our insect player because I feel that they get stuck and they don't do a lot this game. Put it that way. They do play a Scoot Swarm, which is pretty cool. This is 4 times speed, by the way. We're not superhuman commander players. Right, on our turn we'll play a Variant Gearhulk. We're going to blow up the Citadel. They could go stupid with that. Then I'm going to cast a Chalk Outline here, which will give us more triggers. Sacrifice a Catacomb. And I'm going to actually return the Volhar here to trigger both of our enchantments, making ourselves a plant and a detective and investigate, because reasons. We'll attack in here, see if they want to trade with the bolus. They don't, so that's fair. They go down to 17. Pretty close game if you ignore the insect player, who was totally awesome and stayed in the game. Opponent rebuys the Soul of Windgrace, keeps going here. Gets into the Field of the Dead trigger. Cast into the north. I feel like Field of the Dead, it's... I actually stopped playing Hour of Promise. You might have seen a lot of the decks I've been brewing for Commander, because I hated grabbing Field of the Dead every time. Yeah, it's the right move, but it still annoys me that that's the play you have to make most of the time. Opponent plays an Astral Dragon, which will then copy the combustible Gearhulk, turning it into 2 free flying first strike artifact dragons that draw 6, because I'm not taking 15 here. So our opponent draws to 12. I let them draw because they've got 3 mana left, and 4 mana, sorry, and they have, well, 5 mana with the land drop. But also they've got 5 mana left, and they're at 11 cards and no infinite hand size, so we'll see what they do. They play an Augur of Bolus, and they hit nothing apparently, which is insane. Bolus hits Must down to 11. Again, I suppose because this guy hasn't played me, I do look like more of a threat here. But you gotta remember, the Lord Windgrace player has been wiped 4 times at this point and has rebuilt his board every time and beats his command attacks with his commander. So, also revealed potentially Eldrazi finishers, so I would be focusing on him. Here's a super frustrating thing. This insect player roughly had a random 2-drop Beetle uncommon that stopped putting counters on creatures, which is one of the big reasons Insidious Roots is as strong as it is. Okay, so I'm going to use my Mortify, my 3 mana removal. Well, first actually I'm going to draw 2, discard 2. Discard as here. I'm going to cast Volar, because we can use him to flashback like a instant sorcery. I'm going to go to combat here. Opponent draws a card with Windgrace, throwing away another fetch land. I'm going to try and hit the dragon player here. If they go for massive block, I can trade by using removal spells. They let the Astral Dragon die, which makes me think they must have reanimation effects. So I'm going to Mortify here to blow up a Gearhulk in this casual game, where they randomly have Deflecting Swat. Yeah, Deflecting Swat, it's fine. Deflecting Swat's, like I say, it's not an OP card. If they bust it out, so here's the deal. A commander also triggers these enchantments. I never knew this. So we get another plant token and the detective here. We're going to use Volar here to rebuy the Mortify. I'm going to tap out here and attempt to kill their commander. That is met with a mana drain. I've seen enough and know that this deck has to die. Our Lord Windgrace player draws some cards. Draws more cards. Top decks. Last March of the Ants, which for those who don't know is a massive Genesis wave here. So they're going to draw 5, put many creatures they want into play. they get Shieldred and the Vorinclex flipped. So Shieldred takes out non-token creatures. And with their land drop for turn, they have enough mana to flip the Shieldred. So they crack the Catacombs, grab a try. Flip the Shieldred here. And now destroy the Bolus, one of our detectives, and the random beetle, which is pretty sweet for us. They go to combat and swing into the Bolus player. Respond by returning a land. They double block the tokens here. You see, this is the thing I don't get. Why didn't he block the Windgrace with both of them? They had first strike, they would have killed it. They flip for the mana coin. But we were getting to a point now where I was feeling significantly outpowered here. Bonus of Disciple comes down, sacrifices the Gear Hulk clone, draws some cards, gains up some life. Our opponent takes a long time in the tank here. Keep an eye on the clocks here. This was 40-minute clocks for the whole game. They undo into evil here. And we get to pick 2 to put back in their hand. I choose not to give them the Crux of Fate or the Astral Dragon. Because it's clear they want the board wipe to board wipe out. But at this point, I don't think we're going to get anywhere if we just let the control player keep board wiping. So now our opponent has to think, because they were assuming that I would give them back a board wipe, which I don't want to. So they play a Citadel, and they have terrible Citadel luck again. They play Fort Vessel. We get a wasp insect that I have no idea what that is for. So we've level 2 of the saga coming out, mill free and discard free. I choose to use Niv Mizzet here. See what I can find. We hit right here. So Jared's Order's perfect. We can get the engine going. So Jared's Orders, we'll grab 2 of the Eidolons. So we'll grab the Aurora Eidolon into our hand, throw the Virulent Eidolon into the graveyard, use our mana here to Faithful Mending. That lets us draw 2, discard 2, and each time one of the sisters leaves our graveyard, we trigger both our enchantments. So we'll throw back the sisters back into the graveyard. So we're going to have to discard 3 here, so keeping that in mind. Reborn Hope is a definite keep because it buys us back anything. So they mill free. We put 3 in the graveyard. They just keep going with their stuff. So we do get a big turn coming up, and I'll walk us through that. But what I want to explain is how this game ended real quick. Well, I don't want to spoil it actually. I'll explain it when we get there. So our opponent flips their Vorinclex, mills 10 cards, and puts 2 creatures from among them onto the battlefield. They choose Eternal Witness, Timeless Witness, sorry, and Velos to recast March of the Ants here. Now, clearly they're digging for like a hoof effect. They draw 8, but they only get 1 card, which is really bad for them. The irony is they had Rise of the Dark Realms here, which could have totally won them the game here. So they just attack in, full swing into the Bolus player. Bolus player blocks the Lord Windgrace. They go for the flip here with their Mana Crypt. Win it again. I swear Mana Crypt players always win the flips. You take a long bloody time to do the things here. I think they lose like half their time in the final turns. So I'm going to explain here what happens. They use Embolus's Clutches to take control of the True Scriptures. Now, the problem is, right, whoever gets that Scriptures is probably going to win the game. So my choice is, who do I kill here? So I'm going to play to my outs. I'm hoping to draw my enchantments to give haste to all my tokens, so I can swing in and just do insane damage as required. Our opponent here is going to use Nicol Bolas to make us discard our Terminate. We'll hold on to the Reborn Hope. But here's where I make a massive misplay. See, I thought because when you kill someone in Commander, their battlefield leaves the battlefield. I assumed everything on it left with them. So for example, you know, if someone has a tar lead and took your stuff and you kill the player, you don't get the spells that a tar lead casts back on your field. That's how I thought it worked. So my plan here is to kill the Bolas player so the True Scriptures will leave the graveyard. Spoiler alert, that's not how it works apparently. So we're about to watch me throw big time. So first we flash back the Mending, showing the power of the Sisters. Because we're flashing a card back from our graveyard, the Sisters come back to our hand. So effectively, Faithless Mending becomes draw 2, gain 2 life, discard 2 Sisters, but they'll be back in a second anyway. So as you can see here, we're slowly building up a board. The beauty as well of this is, because the plants are 0/1s with tokens on them, the Solar Blaze in our graveyard that got milled is a one-sided like board wipe to every other creature on this field. So we'll play Bloodtithe Harvester, get our Eidolon Sisters back. Our opponents have something, they're just being very slow about it. Right, we will then, as we said, Bloodtithe will come into play, create us a blood token. We can use that blood token to loot away a sister back into the graveyard here. So we'll discard Aurora Eidolon. With that in mind, we'll Reborn Hope. We'll use our detectives that can tap for mana since they're about to die. Sorry, Columbos. We play Insidious Roots and the Chalk Outline trigger. So yeah, remember our board pre-started this turn. But unfortunately, as I said before, this is where things fall apart. So, we go for the Solar Blaze here. I'm expecting interaction. Instead, Soul of Windgrace throws away 2 lands, gaining 2 life. So we're going to have 3. So with that in mind, Niv Mizzet also leaves our graveyard because it goes back to the command zone, triggering our enchantments. So we have 7, 14, 21, 22 damage, but they do have the Maze of Ith, so we can't kill them with that. So I'm going to swing out, kill Hey Guys It's Doug, and do some damage to Oogie 35. But, as I said before, I misplayed because I was unaware of how this interaction works. So the True Scriptures return to their owner because apparently the enchantment doesn't actually, I don't know. Someone in the rules committee could explain it to me. So True Scriptures reanimates. I could keep going here, but I decide since I've misplayed and it's already been over an hour, I'm gonna just take my chances here. We do get a trigger off our enchantments for them getting all our stuff back. But I'm basically just gonna use Convertible Gearhulk here. And I'm gonna see if I'm gonna just let them, I'm milling 3 cards and see what happens. Spoiler alert, we hit another Eldrazi Titan. But all in all, that was a really fun game. We got to show off the power of this deck. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll have a deck list below.